here is the news at 7, reaching you live from Abuja. I'm Ruth Aguele. Let's start by bringing you the headlines. NSAR's protests. President Buhari warns against hijacking of protests by hoodlums and vandals. Benin City under curfew as protesters break into correctional center and attack police stations. And Nigerian military injects new battle tanks to fight insecurity in northeastern Nigeria. President Muhammadu Buhari is appealing to the NSAR's protesters in parts of the country not to allow their genuine agitations be hijacked by hoodlums as government strives towards fulfilling its promises for the good of all. The Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Sunday Dare, made this known while briefing journalists shortly after an audience with the president over the ongoing protests in parts of the country. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo brings us details.
The Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Sunday Dare, was summoned by President Muhammadu Buhari in furtherance of his strategic engagement with critical stakeholders towards finding lasting solutions to the NSAS protest, which has gone violent in parts of the country. It was an opportunity for the minister to not only bring to the fore the demands and desire of the protesting youth for police reforms, but most importantly, appreciate the president for promptly responding to such agitations.
Mr. President said the youth of this country have spoken, and he has heard, and he has since gone to work for the youth of our country, not just as a president, but even as a father of the younger generation. And his desire is that they are well protected, that they live in a country where they enjoy their freedoms, and they do not suffer from any form of police brutality. The President promised that he will ensure that the reforms, as promised, are long-lasting, and that the reforms will deliver for our country a police force that we will be proud of.
The president, who described the youth as a great resource to the country, formally appreciated them for bringing the issue of police brutality to the fore through their peaceful protest and promised to ensure that they are no longer profiled but celebrated as the nation's future lies in their hands.
Mr. President made an appeal to the Nigerian youth that this protest, wherever held, should be done in a peaceful manner. The Nigerian youth should be on their guard to make sure that elements that will infiltrate and distract them from the very purpose of their protest should be prevented from doing so. That a consideration is given for moving this protest from protest to action. Some of these demands will take time. There are processes that must take place. We live in a constitutional democracy. These processes cannot be usurped or bypassed. It must take time. Government has gone to work, and I think that by having a monitoring team, we can have the youth hold government at all levels accountable, particularly on the demands that have been made and other issues tangential to their aspirations.
The minister's engagement with President Muhammadu Buhari was held behind closed doors. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
And to other issues, the Senate Committee on Air Force has commenced its oversight for the 2020 budget by visiting the Chief of the Air Staff to critically assess the progress and challenges of the Nigerian Air Force with a view to boosting the current level of support. Defense correspondent Najata Tijani reports.
Air power is the hallmark of the Nigerian Air Force, deployed in the northeast, and where needed, it is one of the areas being assessed by the Senate Committee on Air Force. As the Nigerian Air Force presents its scorecard, including the formation of new units, activation of grounded platforms, and other progress reports, the observations begin.
was made possible through modern equipment.
But happily enough, I'm sure, Mr. President, having taken stock of your contribution, will not have regretted every support he has given to this service in the discharge of its constitutional responsibility.
I want to particularly appreciate you with regards to the Air Force Institute of Technology in Kaduna, which is today a degree awarding as well as a diploma awarding institution. Without the support of the National Assembly, there is no way we would have been able to achieve what we have achieved in the last few years. Today we have the flag of the Air Force flying in more units in Nigeria than we had in 2015.
One of the recurring issues which comes up concerning national security is that the evolving nature of security threats has necessitated evolving strategies to deal with the current situation. The Nigerian Air Force has the highest capital expenditure ceiling allocation among parastatals in the Ministry of Defense, with a higher percentage of 59.86%. The chairman of the committee commends the Nigerian Air Force for its efforts and promises sustained support in line with the federal government master plan of boosting national security. Naja'atu Tijani, NTA News.
Coalition of indigenous people of the Federal Capital Territory have appealed to the NSARS protesters to desist from blocking the roads. In view of this, the people have, through a peaceful protest, taken their demands to the force headquarters in Abuja. Salihu Abdullahi will tell us more.
As the NSARS protest enters day 13, and a different dimension with negative consequences on socio-economic activities across the country, the indigenous people of the Federal Capital Territory want an end to these. Through their placards, they made their demand clear, which is urging the NSARS protesters not to take advantage and abuse the peaceful atmosphere being provided for them within and around Abuja.
At this point, we have been pushed to the wall. Nobody can go to work. Our mothers can not sell corn anymore. People can no longer go to their normal activities. Everybody have been caged. I don't understand.
Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of research and planning, Leye Oyebade, assured that the police is on top of every situation that will promote peace and urged them to be law-abiding.
We are going to look into your request and we are going to take appropriate action. You know the Inspector General of Police, he is going to take appropriate action. So I don't want you to go back and engage anybody. Tell all other residents to continue to conduct themselves in such a manner that they don't infringe into the fundamental human rights of other citizens.
The group promised not to relent in engaging stakeholders until NSARS protesters stop blocking the roads. In Abuja, Salihu Abdullahi, NTA News.
Well, protesters this Monday attacked and released inmates at Benin Correctional Facility in Edo State. Well, the specific number of those that escaped is yet to be identified. However, it was observed that the protesters gained entrance to the facility after breaking the walls of the headquarters of the Nigeria Correctional Center along Benin Sapele Road, near Nigeria Union of Journalists NUJ office. In the meantime, the Edo State government has imposed a 24-hour curfew across the state till further notice. A statement signed by Secretary to the Edo State Government, Osarodion Ogie, says the curfew is to take effect from 4 p.m. October 19th, 2020. The decision has become necessary because of the very disturbing incidents of vandalism and attacks on private individuals and institutions by hoodlums in the guise of NSARS protesters. Parents are advised to rein in their children, youths and words to forestall further breakdown of law and order. The responsibility of government is to protect lives and property and maintain law and order. Therefore, anyone found outside in violation of the curfew would be dealt with according to the law, the Secretary to the Edo State Government added. In the meantime, the police have confirmed another attack on police facilities in Ubekun Police Station, Oba Market Police Station and Udogbo Police Post by persons posing as NSAS protesters in Benin, Edo State earlier today. Police say the extent of damage cannot be ascertained at the moment, but reports indicates that the protesters carted away arms and ammunition from the armory and freed the suspects in custody before setting some of the facilities ablaze. The force has brought the situation under control, we hear, while restating commitment to protect lives of innocent citizens and prevent further attacks on any other critical infrastructure in the state. The police called on parents and guardians to prevail on their children and wards to desist from acts of violence under any guise. And joining us now via Zoom to discuss the NSAS protest and its negative fallout is Dr. Kabir Adamu, a security expert. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening.
Okay, I beg your pardon, I took the wrong name. Mr. Lionel Rollins, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Now, let's just go ahead. The protest we're seeing is producing negative fallouts in some parts of the country. I'm sure you're aware. Are we still witnessing NSAS protest?
Well, it is to be expected that you will have criminal elements or hoodlums, that, if you, to use your word, who will try to inject themselves in the peaceful protest that is taking place. And it happens not just here, but all over the world. And these are the kind of problems that your country should expect and should encounter, because people have their own special interests and their own reasons why they will do the things that they want to do to make the peaceful protest or protesters look bad. So this is a very complicated but delicate situation that the Nigerian government must be able to handle in a very delicate manner.
Okay, and we saw the jailbreak and attack on police posts in Benin. Now, that seems to suggest that there's more than meets the eye. Now, security of such places, you agree with me, should be able to forestall any kind of attack, especially from protesters. What's your take on that?
Well, they should be able to forestall attacks of that nature, but it doesn't always work that way. Okay. It's an overwhelming force of people, of youth, who stormed the building, and you probably only had a handful of workers, of security guards or officers on hand. But this was targeted. You can tell it was targeted. Who in the right mind, if you're protesting NSAS, would attack a prison and deliberately and intentionally set free prisoners? What you're doing is setting bad people back into the population for them to do bad things to the population. So this was targeted. It was not good. And we need to be able to stop and prevent these things from happening in the future.
Now, with this developments happening, can we safely say that it is still a clean protest?
Well, overwhelmingly, yes, because if it were not a peaceful protest, you would have seen more incidents such as this. In the United States, the protests that they've had have caused more damage than what we have seen here in Nigeria so far. So it can actually get worse. So yes, to answer your question directly, it is still considered a peaceful protest, but it is getting to the extent where we might be starting to show some concern about the gravity of peace that we are so happy to see.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Lionel Rollins. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay, let's go on a break. We're back shortly. Stay tuned.
Demands of #NSAS movement. immediate release of all arrested protesters, justice for all deceased victims of police brutality and appropriate compensation for their families, setting up an independent body to oversee the investigation and prosecution of all reports of police misconduct within 10 days. In line with the new Police Act, psychological evaluation and retraining to be confirmed by an independent body of all disbanded SARS officers before they can be redeployed. Increase police salary so that they are adequately compensated for protecting the lives and property of citizens. Federal government's response. On 11th October 2020, the Inspector General of Police dissolved the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, across the 36 states police commands and the Federal Capital Territory. On October 12th, President Muhammadu Buhari addressed the nation, stating the disbanding of SARS is only the first step in our commitment to extensive police reforms. On 13th October 2020, the Inspector General of Police ordered all defunct SARS personnel to report at Force Headquarters, Abuja, for debriefing as well as psychological and medical examination. On 13th October 2020, the Presidential Panel on the Reform of SARS accepted the 5-point demand of the #EndSARS protesters. On 15th October 2020, the National Economic Council, NEC, directed the immediate establishment of state-based judicial panels of inquiry across the country to receive and investigate complaints of police brutality, related extrajudicial killings with a view to delivering justice for all victims of the dissolved SARS and other police units. State governors should immediately establish state-based special security and human rights committees to be chaired by governors in their state and to supervise the newly formed police tactical units and all other security agencies located in the state. This will ensure the protection of citizens' human rights. Members will also include representatives of youths and civil society, as well as head of police tactical units in each of the states.
Thanks for staying tuned. The Chairman Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, Boss Mustafa, says in the last 1 week, scores of COVID-19 patients were discharged after recovering from the disease, leaving Nigeria with less than 4,000 active cases. Speaking at the PTF briefing Monday, the task force said 4,876 discharged patients represent an increase in recovery cases when compared with 967 people discharged in the previous week.
Similarly important is the fact that education sector has joined aviation in the gradual but safe reopening process. Civil servants on all grade levels have been allowed to return to work for the first time today since March. This also calls for caution, vigilance, and effective preparation and leadership.
We have distributed medical equipment such as ventilators and oxygen concentrators to all the federal tertiary hospitals and the states. One of the challenges we have in our hospitals is irregular and unstable power supply.
Through our various member MDAs, we have trained at least 17,000 healthcare workers in infection prevention and control, in laboratory operations and case management.
And on the global scene, South Africa's health minister and his wife test positive for COVID-19 as Italy tightens rules after cases surge. Uche Oguchukwu brings us the global update.
Based on experts' advice, Wales First Minister Mark Drakeford said Wales will start a 2-week fire break lockdown from 23rd October. Mr. Drakeford insisted that unless prompt action is taken, the National Health Service will be overwhelmed by the increasing number of people who are falling seriously ill. Similarly, Italy has announced new measures which it says are needed to avoid a new lockdown amid a surge in coronavirus cases. The moves came as the country recorded its highest daily infection rate for the second day in a row. In the same vein, Switzerland has introduced new restrictions after registering a spike in new cases and fatalities. Turning attention to Africa, South Africa's health minister said he and his wife have tested positive for COVID-19, while Kenyan health minister warned that rising infections in the country could lead to a second wave of the pandemic. In Nigeria, 54 patients were discharged from isolation centers across the country Sunday. The Center for Disease Control also recorded 2 new casualties and 133 new positive cases detected in 8 states and the Federal Capital Territory. This brings the country's confirmed cases tally to 61,440 and death to 1,125. Now, the African continent has a total of 1,656,687 confirmed cases, out of which 39,824 patients lost their lives. And as at 6 p.m. Nigerian time, the world's fatality tally stood at 1,120,160 from the 40,420,806 infections as collated by the Coronavirus Resource Center at Johns Hopkins University. That is it from here. I am Uche Ugochukwu.
Thank you, Uche. Let's take you to Guinea on electoral matters. Vote counting, we hear, is underway in Guinea to determine who will be the West African nation's new president. Our correspondent, Nnamdi Odipo, now joins us live from Conakry. Nnamdi, tell us, how is it playing out there? Have the votes been counted yet?
Well, like you rightly said, Ruth, the vote counting is ongoing. And people are quite expectant, and of course, naturally, they are also anxious about the results. But essentially, the vote counting is ongoing, and we expect, as the Constitution stipulates, that results must be announced 72 hours after the vote. So we expect that within the 72 hours window, the results will be collated. And we do know that constitutionally, only the Constitutional Court is allowed by law to announce the result. There are speculations making the rounds now. I'm sure you've heard that as well, that some persons or a party or some groups have already declared themselves winner. Well, we do not know that for a fact. What we know for a fact is that the Electoral Commission is yet to declare the results of the election, and that result has to be ratified and approved and sanctioned by the Constitutional Court.
I agree with you, Nnamdi. In every election, they must play by the rules. But from your observation, is there anything you want us to know about the Guinea election?
Well, we've always suspected, Ruth, that the elections will be fierce. Of course, we do have a background as to what happened in Guinea, the build-up to this exercise. We do know of the grievances by some parties, especially the opposition party, with regards to the participation of the RPG candidate, incumbent President Alpha Conde, in this particular exercise. We do also have a background, and we do know what happened with the amendments of the Constitution that allowed for him to participate in this election, making it his third term. If he does win, that is, I beg your pardon, making it his third time to contest for this position. And we do know that not many in Guinea agreed with that decision, even though 82% of Guineans, according to the referendum, actually approved the referendum route. So there's bound to be tension, but we do expect that Guineans would become antari and wait for either the Electoral Commission or the Constitutional Court to come forth and announce the results of this election.
Okay, let me borrow your word, the tense situation you just mentioned, but from the electorates, is there a peaceful atmosphere there as they anticipate who the next president will be?
I have had the opportunity to go around some parts. You know, it's quite dicey for me as well, knowing that it's a place that I've not been to in the last 5-6 years. But of course, I've read a bit about Conakry. It's not a very large city. It's a peninsula, like, you know, perched on the Atlantic. I've had the opportunity to just go to some parts of Conakry this evening, and I can tell you it's calm. Though we'll be hearing or getting feelers from some parts. There are some demonstrations going on in downtown Conakry. That cannot be confirmed yet. I cannot confirm that, but we've heard some feelers from that part. Okay. But substantially from where I am right now, it is calm. People are awaiting the results of the counts, and of course, for every contestation there will be tension, and so we expect that once the results are announced, the tension would reduce naturally.
All right, thank you very much, Nnamdi, our correspondent there, reporting live from Conakry. Okay, let's look at other issues. In a collective quest to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, and particularly in the era of COVID-19 and beyond, there is need to achieve sustainable food systems and productivity, and also to promote agribusiness and food preservation. Now, this was the takeaway from the 2020 World Food Day meeting virtually organized by the Food and Agriculture Organization in Nigeria. Justin Bem-Unye reports.
This year's World Food Day comes with a message from the FAO that the celebrations call for a global cooperation and solidarity to make sure that the threats COVID-19 is posing to food security and agricultural livelihoods are confronted. FAO Nigeria country representative made this assertion during a webinar with the Nigerian government representatives and other development partners. Emphasis was stressed on the importance for governments to urgently address the devastating effects that the economic slowdown will have on the most vulnerable populations.
That no sector is more important than agriculture in sustaining livelihoods, food security, in nutrition, in managing conflicts, in nourishing the population with healthy foods.
Generation of employment, especially for the youth, and inclusiveness of women and the vulnerable through agricultural value chains and other sustainable interventions was another issue of reminder.
So for me, sustainability is how does Nigerian government leverage her policies to engage with the market and therefore take advantage of the young population that is not only a demographic representation, but an agricultural demographic representation.
The 2020 World Food Day coincides with the FAO's 75th anniversary. Justin Bem-Unye, NTA News.
All right, and just before we go, let's have a sneak peek on Tuesday's weather prospect. That's the news at 7. Thank you for being a part of it. Before we go, remember to connect with NTA and stand against rape and rapists. I'm Ruth Aguele. Bye.
"24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can watch NTA International live on your TV, computer, iPad, tablet and phone. Log on to visiontv.co.uk and click on Entertainment, then NTAI. You can also download the iOS or Android app on your mobile devices to watch NTA International on the go, anywhere in the world. NTA International, your window to the world.